Redditors who were on Nickelodeon game shows, Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Guts, what was your experience like? Did you ever win anything worthwhile? Legends of the Hidden Temple. It was a long day but we had endless pizza and soda. Mid-90s. Every recent gaming system was available to play between shoots. There was a live audience that would get shuffled in and out. The host interviewed us all individually and it was a bit uncomfortable. Red Jaguars for life. I was on Double Dare when I was a kid. The way it worked for us is that we went to the taping and prior to the show they picked out families to do games which would determine who would be on the show. I think they were looking for people who could follow directions and people who tested well for the camera. We got picked to try out only because during the last chance to be picked I physically grabbed the guy selecting people again. I was a kid and this was the 90s, and yelled please pick us at the top of my lungs. Anyways we got picked and did a cake making challenge with the large styrofoam cakes. You would pass them down and stack them while one person added slime to help hold them together. We won that and were selected for the show. There was a little talk and paperwork before the show, mostly handled by my dad. The talk we got was to encourage us to listen closely to the rules and to be enthusiastic for the camera. We were Team R, Real Monsters, which excited me because that show was dope. During the show we did a couple of physical challenges. I remember we did one where you flipped frogs into the other player's pants using a small catapult. We ended up winning the main show and got to do the obstacle course. I was picked to do, I believe, obstacles 4 and 8. 4 was the human gumball machine and 8 was the blimp. I remember being disappointed because my brother got to do Picket and that crap was my jam. The gumball machine was really cool though. You jump in and basically disappear into black for a few seconds while all you can hear are tons of plastic ball pit balls shifting. Then you suddenly see the stage lights again when you exit. The blimp was very straightforward. I was told I could not engage it until the whole family was under it. When they were in place I pulled a cord and we all got slimed. I got the flag and we won. After the show we were covered in slime, which tastes very good surprisingly. The crew gave us our Real Monsters t-shirts that had glow in the dark parts. On a side note, I wore that shirt until it was so full of holes that my mom threw it away. Back to the story though. My family didn't expect to get picked so we ended up having to find cardboard to lay down on the seats of the van so we could ride home without ruining the seats. It was an interesting ride back sitting around in my undershorts on a piece of cardboard trying not to touch anything. For prizes we got mountain bikes, a Sega Genesis with maximum carnage, a Mario Paint game with the drawing board, a Nickelodeon flash screen, and random other things I'm forgetting. My parents paid taxes on all the prizes and they took a long time to arrive. I think it was several months before we got the first ones and about 6 months until we had everything. It was a great experience overall though. I was gonna be on the Wild and Crazy Kids show. I was 5 and my sister was 6. She decided to ruin my life by getting her fingers caught in a heavy metal door jamb. I guess getting 3 of your fingertips crushed is reason enough to cry like a baby. Anyways, we had to go to the hospital instead of fulfilling my destiny, and the rest of my life has been downhill since then. What Wild and Crazy KIIDS. Won a contest in some comic book, think it was the Beano, and got to be on Ministry of Mayhem. Had the biggest crush on Holly Willoughby, still do. Covered her in slime while she wore a schoolgirl costume. Looking back, that show was pretty weird. That sounds to me like a formative sexual experience. When I was at Universal Nickelodeon I got called up to be a contestant on some test show. Got slimed. It was basically applesauce. Got to meet the all that cast who were my age. Funny to see some of them around on TV and stuff. Same. The gag was basically pudding. Met Amanda Bynes and Danny Tamborelli. They had my dad go up with me to play this game. Basically he had to put on these giant pants and I had to toss cookies in them. It was all so much fun. I was on Slime Time Live back when they taped at Universal Studios in Orlando. They had a bunch of us kids line up outside by the slime geyser where the producers could see how enthusiastic we would be for television. My sister and I got on the show thanks in part to my dad splitting us up so the producers wouldn't know we were related. Anyways, once we're chosen, we hung out in the green room at the old Nickelodeon studios. They had a TV playing reruns and couch, nothing too fancy. We did get to see where the slime was made, the prop room, and a couple of the sound stages. Sadly, the inside of the studio was largely deserted and a far cry from its heyday due to its impending closure. We geared up in jumpsuits, and when they were ready to go live, we went outside to tape the show. I lost the first game, but my sister wound up going on to getting slimed and winning a kick scooter. Pretty much the same for me and my brother, except we didn't get to see much behind the scenes. My bro and I didn't win anything, but I did pick up a pie tin off the ground and got the hosts to sign it, but I've since lost the thing. Very disappointed in myself for not keeping better track of it. In 5th grade, had a classmate who was on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. He was chosen for the mall version, then did the TV. Didn't win. He was popular after that until he moved at the end of the school year. I was on Double Dare when I was 6 or 7. I was randomly picked from the audience and participated on the red team in a snowball fight. I think it was around 2001 or 2002. My parents have the VHS of it somewhere. How was the set? Did everything feel real or was it just a letdown? I was on Double Dare in 1987. Back when it was on Fox before it moved to Nickelodeon. It was awesome. Our whole class and the other team's class were the audience members. My parents had to chaperone the school trip to go there, Philly, and they had to sit on a different set, finders keepers, so they would not interfere. My team won, but I messed up the obstacle course on the 5th obstacle. We split $320 cash and then each won a phone tape answering machine, a gumball and dog treat machine, $200 to KB Toy Store and a remote controlled car. Dave, Robin, Harvey and Mark were all extremely friendly. I went home with slime, icing, in my underwear. My brother and I, while at Universal Orlando in early 2000 or maybe 2001, got chosen from the park to be on a short Guts Show commercial break game or something where we were going to shoot free throws on their driveway garage looking studio inside Nickelodeon. We go inside and see some awesome sets for the live shows and then get taken to the waiting room, which was basically a pimped out 90s Nickelodeon dreamland. Video games and wacky decor. Can't remember a whole lot, but they didn't let me wear the shirt I had on and took me into the enormous wardrobe room and gave me a baggy plain red shirt. I felt like an idiot. I must have been 9 or 10. We go into the set and they tell me that I was too young to play, so my brother played some free throws game with 3 other kids and I got to be the kid who rebounded the balls and passed them back. We didn't win anything, but later we both got letters from Nickelodeon with our names on them that I bragged about until I grew up and didn't watch Nickelodeon anymore. Frick man, I just want a piece of that aggro crag. I was on Slime Time Live in the early 2000s. We all lined up in a row to play one game. The winner of the game got Ice Age on DVD. Basically there were these teams of 2 and you were either a kid with a balloon on your head or the kid with a nail file. You popped the balloon and you either got red slime or green. Green meant you won the prize and red meant you just got slimed. It was applesauce cause I tasted it after I lost, but I was still on Nickelodeon and you can bet I bragged about it to my friends. I was on national TV. I was on LOL HT. I was on the very young end of the 11-14 range, having just turned 11 a few months prior. The puberty gap was huge and some of these kids were much stronger than me. I watched the show religiously to prepare and then I got handed the most difficult moat crossing I'd ever seen. Fell in multiple times, the fog made it kind of hard to breathe. It took a really long time for one of the last 3 teams to get across the moat, which they reduced significantly in editing. I went back to the dressing room and they were prepping the next 4 teams with the story for the Steps of Knowledge. I think they heard it at least 3x read to them and get a copy to internalize. Leaving this scene was surreal and I was already struggling to deal with it. I didn't yet realize the huge letdown experience was going to lead me into a bit of a depression. I remember arguing with the kid from the Red Jaggers about whether OJ was guilty, changing out of my wet clothes, visiting the biggest McDonald's in Orlando and then driving home with my parents. I got a $50 savings bond in the mail maybe 3 months later and I never redeemed it. My episode aired and we taped it, but now the YouTube version of the episode is actually higher quality. It just doesn't have the commercials from the original era. I was on a Dutch version of one of these shows, not 100% sure which one, and I was part of the guest guessing team. It was boys versus girls. We overheard the girls mentioning that they saw the guests already, but they refused to say who they were. So the guest guessing game happened and we each got a few questions. Questions were asked and it became obvious who they were, and this part will annoy me for the rest of my life. I knew who the guests were from the question answered. I realized who they were, except I only remembered the names of their characters from the movie they were from. So I was standing there trying to think of what the actor names were when the girl team pressed the button and answered the character's name, and it was correct. I was devastated. I knew the answer but thought it wasn't allowed, which cost my team the win. So all in all, quite good. I can't believe you've done this. I was on the Double Dare live tour circa 1992. My parents and I were pulled from the audience to do a new challenge from the, new at the time, show What Would You Do? My parents had to do a chug-a-lug contest with a giant mug of milk. Mark Summers handed me a pie to smash in the loser's face. My mom thought she had this in the bag because my dad is severely lactose intolerant. My dad doesn't like to lose. He won, but spent the rest of the day in the bathroom. I pied my mom in the face. 10/10 would do again. Having Nickelodeon flashbacks. Anyone else remember Stick Stickly? Anyone else still hear his jingle for the address? Write to me Stick Stickly, P.O. Box 963, New York City, New York State, 10,108 inches. Summertime Nick was the best. In 2001, I was on Slime Time Live. I got slimed in the big chair and won Shrek on VHS, which is my all-time prized possession. My family was on a trip to Orlando for Disney and Universal, and I was dead set on making it onto the show. I forced my family to go to the park as soon as they opened so we could run over to the famed Nickelodeon studios and figure out how to get on the show. I had make a t-shirt before the trip and everything, covered in Nicktoon characters and big letters that read Slime Me. As we were entering the park, my mom was giving me the whole spiel, how lots of kids want to be on it and how I shouldn't be disappointed if we don't make it on. I never heard the end of what she was saying, because as security was checking her purse, I saw a lady with a clipboard in a Nickelodeon t-shirt and bolted towards her. I ran up to her and asked, "Are you from Slime Time Live? Look at my shirt. I want to be on Slime Time Live." In reality, she was clearly just a PA, but to this day, I see her as a god. They signed me and my sister up and told us to come back in a few hours. So we went through the park, hit all the classics, RIP Back to the Future, the ride. Once it was time for the show, they brought us backstage, where we changed into our jumpsuits and got ready for filming. My sister did one of the mini-games, but her team didn't end up winning. Like I said, I managed to get in the big chair and got paired with a kid on the phone who, luckily, got those matching game numbers just right. I couldn't believe it. Before I could even process what was about to happen, I witnessed Dave Aza was yelling to slime me. My life was forever changed, and the bucket tipped over. I don't want to completely ruin the magic for everyone, but the slime was basically just applesauce dyed green that they vacuumed up and put back in the bucket. I remember asking the PA that took me backstage what it was, and he showed me by eating a finger swipe worth of slime. Much to my dismay, I was forced to shower off backstage, but my ears were dyed green by the time we got back home to NY. I don't know if anyone remembers, but the old Mets Shea Stadium had the Nickelodeon experience out behind left field in the 90s. I went for the day and got picked to be on a show with Mike O'Malley and got slimed. Was a hybrid of applesauce and vanilla pudding. Got some Nick swag, t-shirt, hat, pins, and a cold shower after to wash away the slime. Mike was a really nice guy. Silver Snakes were rigged. They paid to win and always did was on Double Dare and got selected to play, but we ultimately got rejected to play. Either way it doesn't matter, Legends was rigged and Kirk Fogg is a dweeb. It always seemed like the Silver Snakes went to the Temple Run. The Shrine of the Silver Monkey wasn't that hard. Does anyone remember the game Finders Keepers? Teams of 2 would run through a big fake house finding certain items. I'd be so good at that game today. Some girl I worked with told me she was on a Nickelodeon game show when she was a kid, but couldn't remember which one. She was a little bit of an airhead and we were all very frustrated with her. Someone yelled, "Girl, was your family there? Were they all wearing the same colored shirt?" She said she had a certificate at her mom's house somewhere. We all just walked away. I am still so salty about it. Sounds like someone got caught in a lie. Anybody remember Hey Dude? That, Pete and Pete, and Salute Your Shorts were an amazing time to be a kid with cable. Oldie but a goodie, you can't do that on television. The pro to all that, racier with more slime, mom hated it. I remember that show coming on and always being a little scared. It had subversive undertones. I always watched it but it felt like the show was always teetering on the brink of absolute chaos. Pete and Pete filmed in a house my mother's friend grew up in and I was from a small town, so when they needed extras on the show, I remember the gym scene they had us pretend to dance but there was no music. The entire high school was off for the day so we could attend the filming. I only graduated with about 300 other students I think. Anyhow, filming was fun. It was $50 a day and only a few hours. They stood outside our school and once a few kids started it just turned into the whole school practically. You have been visited by the snake of great corn. You will be blessed with corn for eternities to come, but only if you comment, "Corn me up, snake." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.